Welcome to episode 55 of the Sourcing Challenge Show. I'm your host, Mark Lundgren. In this episode, I interviewed Vyvy Truong from Toronto in Canada, and as always, asked her how she got into sourcing.
Well, I took HR back in university. I went to a Toronto university called York University for human resources management. And how I got into staffing in general, I had a phenomenal professor who was teaching the class there, and she turned to be my mentor for the 4 or 5 years that I was there. And after school, I think I took, honestly, coming out of school, the first job you get is the first job you take. So I took a staffing coordinator role at a marketing agency in Toronto. Worked there for about a year, went into HR assistant, did a little bit more recruiting, but on the HVAC customer service. And it wasn't until I got an email or in-mail from one of the tech recruiters for NTT Data. It's an IT solutioning company based in Japan. They had their headquarters in the US. They were looking for recruiting associates to work more from an agency perspective. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what the heck, why not? Took the job. I got flown out to Philly, and that's where I had like a good small indication of just what sourcing is. You get contracts that come out, you have a bajillion other recruiters who are working on it. So you got to be fast, right? You got to figure out where to find these candidates. And, simple things, Monster, Workopolis, our ATS, I think we were using Job Diva at that time. Some of the more niche roles, I think the very first role that I came across that I wasn't too familiar with was an Agile coach. And you don't really find those individuals in our ATS because it's such a rare thing back then. I guess in Europe, Agile it's much more advanced than North America. But yeah, trying to find Agile coaches. And that's when I used a couple of our resources in the company that no one has touched since, I think it said like 3 years ago edit. But I started trying Google X-Ray. And then I tried a couple other, networking, Slack and whatnot. And it wasn't until I moved to Core Resources where my leader at that time, his name is James. I don't know if you remember him. He came to us, told the team and said, hey, there is a sourcing hackathon for recruiters. Why don't we try it out this year? So we did a couple trial runs on the sourcing website just to see how far we would be able to advance. And then saved all the Chrome extensions possible, had every single window and platform available. And then when it actually came down to the sourcing challenge itself, we were just super happy with we were even able to qualify. But I think we tried to, a lot of the things that we learned that day, we have never used in our lives in terms of recruiting. So we try to incorporate a little bit more towards some of the active roles that we were working on for some of our clients. And, kudos to some of the individuals out there who's been doing this for, years and years, because I still think that I'm pretty much a novice at it. I still try to do it now in my current role at FreshBooks, but still, it's just like a learning opportunity and being able to listen to everyone that you've interviewed so far. A couple things that I've jotted down that I'm looking forward to applying to real world applications.
Specifically with your team, similar to the team from Nortal, is that you work really well as a team. Mm-hmm. So because I can see the back end of what was going on in the challenges, you were one of the ones where you were working closely together on trying to solve the things, not having, one of the sourcers trying to do everything themselves, which you have some teams where it's like, they're used to being the lead on everything, so they're going to take the lead on this, or are used to winning these sourcing competitions, so they'll take the lead on that, where you worked really well as a team and got far because of that. And yeah, it was like I think there was 76 teams that tried out to begin with. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we had 16 and then kind of down to the final, but you did really well. And I could see following along that you worked as a team, because you can kind of see when, the question gets answered.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the downside, if let's say we had one person lead all the questions that were required, I think it would have affected our timing. We knew that each person was better, or they were a little bit more proficient in terms of how to be able to source particular information. So we all sat together at that time. We made sure that we took time after work to even complete it. And it worked out well. You know, I excelled in certain aspects. James, Steve, they excelled in certain aspects. And as soon as we understood what was required, we would walk each other through and then just input the answer as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And for you, and I mean, in your career in general, what's some of the resources or some of the people that you learned from?
So right now I have a mentor. His name is Dean, and he is the talent acquisition manager for Fix Software, also based here in Toronto. He's been a great friend, also a mentor, but he's been in the industry for about 15 years now, and he leads a great group of people, great company overall, and it's just so admirable to be able to see someone build out a company. I think they were at 80 people maybe about 2 years ago. Now they're at 200, 250. And despite COVID, they're still looking for individuals. They have a great recruitment strategy in terms of maintaining their current ecosystem, as well as recruiting what is required to keep the business going. So I'd probably say that Dean is my biggest mentor. I go to him for every single question possible regarding careers, how to find particular individuals. But in terms of tools, like we use Greenhouse right now. I will say probably not my favorite ATS, but I found that in my role here at FreshBooks, a lot of the roles I work on are product development and engineering, mobile engineers, product design and development, and there aren't that many people who come inbound, and it requires me to allocate more time to sourcing. Whereas my previous role at Core Resources, we had a great amount of people. I was able to build relationships with people, reach out to them when there was a role, and then it's just done like that. But for FreshBooks, a lot of time, I'd probably say about 20 hours a week at least to source for individuals. And I think one of my biggest challenges right now is finding a data engineer at the principal level. I think in Canada, there's not too many companies who have someone at that level. I've been trying to look for someone more senior, kind of gauge with the team, because we don't have anybody at that level right now with the company, but gauge with them what is their opportunity to learn, or what can we learn about from this individual. So that's the steps I've been taking with other tools that I've used in Amsterdam specifically. I've tried using Zing. I should actually ask you a couple tools. I used AngelList, Slack, LinkedIn Recruiter tends to be a big one for my leader. He counts on a lot of the emails that come out and what our response rate is. GitHub, Stack Overflow are probably my main tools.
And for you now, I mean, obviously, with your current role, you got more of an international role as well. What's been the kind of biggest difference from you in having to switch mindset to look at, you know, Amsterdam as well?
I think the biggest thing is the mindset of the candidates are very different. In North America, to be honest with you, people will apply to any position, even if they're not fully qualified for it, right? And they're willing to move in a snap. Whereas what I found with the candidate pool in Amsterdam, a lot of the candidates are more meticulous, a little bit more careful in terms of the roles that they're moving forward to. So it really challenged me in understanding FreshBooks, what we wanted to do in the Amsterdam market, how were we going to pitch that to the candidates and give them a sell point in terms of why this move would be great versus their current role. So that was probably the biggest tweak that I had to adjust.
Okay. And tell me about the sourcing / recruitment community in Toronto. I know you have some really cool tech companies in the, let's say, greater Toronto area and around, you know, the different universities in the area. So, you know, what's it like in terms of sourcing and community in general?
To be honest with you, I wouldn't say that there is a dedicated community for sourcing. There are a lot of communities in talent acquisition and talent acquisition in tech. I'd probably say that we probably need to level up on our sourcing community here. There are great opportunities to meet with individuals who are a little bit more focused on the sourcing aspect, but no dedicated group. So I'm hoping what I can do in the near future, when things kind of clear up a little bit more, start a meetup and at least have some dedicated individuals who are a little bit more passionate about sourcing. Like a lot of the tech companies here in Toronto, they have a talent acquisition partner or recruiter who will do everything 360.
Yeah.
I know with a lot of companies outside of Canada, there tends to be a dedicated sourcer and a dedicated recruiter. And I think that model works a lot better, especially when a company is scaling, because
Mm-hmm.
it is a one-person job to be able to source and to be able to take that candidate through the rest of the process. So hopefully in the next 2 years or so, Toronto can step up our game.
Okay. And for people like me in Europe, or other people in the US who might have a company that all of a sudden have roles in Toronto or have to start looking for people in Toronto, what's the differences? What do we have to look for, and how do we kind of work on the Toronto market?
I think it's all about company branding at this point in Toronto. There are a lot of great companies who are based here in the GTA, and it's all about understanding the market and being on top of what are you able to provide to potential candidates. It's not only, the full benefits package, base salary and whatnot, but the growth, right? What's the growth plan? And find that a lot of candidates here, they want to understand the company, the vision, how they're going to be contributing to it, and work autonomously towards that. I think one of the biggest successes for us in the time that I've been here at FreshBooks is the opportunity to network. We have so many different networking opportunities to meet with potential candidates. There's this event called Fuck Up Night.
Mm-hmm.
And Fuck Up Night, they have dedicated speakers who are very successful in their role. They're entrepreneurs, but you always hear about their successes and where they get to, but Fuck Up Night is dedicated to just drinking, having fun, and learning every single mistake that they have made during their career to get to where they are. So I find that networking events like that, they're much more lenient. People are a lot more geared towards going to those events, a lot more comfortable, and you are able to freely kind of talk about, let's say, some of the roles that you're working on, the company that you work with, and it's just slowly building up that pipeline.
Absolutely. I think we could probably learn something like from recruiter point of view as well. You always hear people talking at conferences about what went well and how good they are, and how good their process are. But what you rarely hear is that, that complete fail you did, or what you did that was really bad.
Sure.
I know you worked a lot with Agile methodology and things like that in core resources. What have you kind of taken with you to FreshBooks, and are you still working with those processes?
I have tried to bring some of those processes over. Like, I think what I really excel in, or what I work best in, is being able to visualize where all the roles are, how many candidates we have within that pipeline. And it is something that I've implemented for myself at FreshBooks.
Yeah.
I have tried to do it at a team level, but I think some of the things move relatively quickly. And what I can say about some of the recruiters there is that they're so quick to close roles. I think normally, we have certain timelines that we allocate to for each department. So marketing, customer service, sales usually take 2 weeks. Anything beyond that, a little bit more niche, let's say development or design, it could take anywhere between 4 to 7 weeks. So for myself, I've had my own dedicated board in terms of the roles I work on. There's usually about 8 to 10 roles. And then how many candidates that I've allocated within those lines. So that's something that I brought in, kind of like the Kanban board to the team. Other than that, though, I'd probably say it's been pretty limited being able to transfer what I've learned at core and then bringing it over to FreshBooks, aside from the Kanban and sourcing.
And for you, Vyvy, if people want to stay in touch with you and follow you in the future, see where your road takes you, how can they best do that?
Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty noticeable. There's not too many Vyvy Truongs out there on LinkedIn. I do have my GitHub just so that I can source. People are more than happy to hit me up on GitHub as well.
Perfect. Well, look, thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you one day, hopefully.
Yes, one day, Mark, hopefully.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
If you like this episode, please consider sharing it or any of the other episodes with a friend or a colleague who might be interested as well. And consider subscribing to the channel, which will help us reach more people and grow the community.